my God, my friend. Can I just tell you how refreshing it is to just talk about some real shit? Thank you for being so real.
Thank you for having me. I can't even tell you, I have been counting the days until
Mm,
I get to have a live conversation with Meg Miller.
mm.
Really. Thank you. Thank you for being you.
Oh, ditto. And I got to share it with our tribe. I think there's something so powerful about who you surround yourself with, what rooms you put yours, right? Because I wasn't for so long. I just was around the people that I saw, was in my
Yep.
industry, never intentional on that. Would you share with our tribe how we came into each other's lives? Because I think it's just a beautiful point to that.
I was hoping we could talk about this today. So, you and I both attended Susan Freeman's Empowered Women event in Philadelphia this year. I
Hmm.
believe the date was on June 1st, and there was a dinner the night before for anyone who was there and wanted to catch up. And we sat at, I don't know, maybe there were 2 dozen at least women
Yeah.
there. And we sat at these long bench tables at this steak restaurant. And I remember sitting with a couple of women that I knew, and the seat across from me was empty. And you just saddled up to that seat and you said, "Can I sit here?" And I said to you, "I love your blouse." I noticed it right when you came in because you had this beautiful silk blouse on with cheetahs. And I said, "I don't know if you've read Untamed, but that blouse speaks to me." And that's where the romance began. That's how we met.
Oh, God. Isn't that such a gift? So I want to ask you, my friend, how do you stay intentional on the rooms you're in? Like, what does that look like in this juggle game of life where you feel like you're doing all the things, you can barely stay afloat, you're tired, you feel like you want to retract from the world? How do you continue to do that? Because you are so great at it.
Well, I have to tell you, it's been a very busy season and I am very tired. So, this is a very timely question because, like
Preach.
you, I really just was around the people I worked with and
Hmm.
attended events with the people I worked with. And because I was an attorney practicing at a law firm, it was a lot of lawyers and a lot of the same dinners, a lot of the same people. Since I've left private practice, I've really tried to make a point of being in different rooms, whether it's through the nonprofit on which I'm a board member. And it is a legal nonprofit, but we have supporters from all different industries and walks of life. I also really attend events with my husband. Again, he's an attorney, but just last week we went to an event and we saw a speaker who changed my life, and that was an
Mm,
event for children. I also, I think, am good at networking where I'll
mm,
stay in touch with people.
mm,
So if they invite me to come to an event, I have to remind myself to say yes, and to at least
mm.
consider it. And it is hard in seasons like this where there are so many events, but I always tell myself, you feel so good when you're there. You feel so good when you're in that
Mhm.
room. And I work from home in my day job. So I am an extrovert. So that is another impetus for me to be like, all right, you got to get out, go to this event,
Yeah.
network with these people, find time for friends because you can't just sit home all the time.
God, you know what I love so much about what you said? Two things. One, about doing it with your partner,
Mm.
because I think that's so powerful. It also forces you to connect in another way. And then
Yep.
two, as you said, say yes. It made me think of Shonda Rhimes' book.
Love it. Was going to say it. Yep.
Tell our listeners
We're having
about that
another
book.
moment.
Oh,
Year of
girl.
Yes, right? It's
Yeah.
Shonda Rhimes' book, Year of Yes, was a definite game changer for me. Meg, I read it a couple years ago, and it's one of those books where I think I want to go back and reread. I don't know if you've read it more than once,
Mm.
but I feel like I need a refresher because she basically takes this year to just say, I'm going to say yes to whatever comes into my life. And it's not just professionally, but it's personally. She said, when her children would come in and she'd be working or writing, her inclination used to be, no, 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 I can't play right now. But she would stop what she is doing and say yes to even something that's small. Because, by the way, as well, kids' attention spans is like 10 minutes. So you've given them what they've wanted. You've gotten that little connection with them and you can move on. But saying yes to big things and small things and how much it changed her life. So, so inspiring.
Speaking about changing your life, I want to
Mm.
tell our listeners about your journey because, girl, it is so fucking relatable. Talk to us about your journey, your climb as an attorney, the revelation you had, and how it brought you to where you are today.
Well, thanks for asking. And I'm glad you think it's relatable. And that was one
Mm,
of those things that we connected on that
yeah.
night that we sat across from each other, because there you were, this, hospitality industry executive who had your breaking moment and walked away. And my journey was wanting to become a lawyer and specifically a partner at a law firm since I was a teenager. And I'll just note the reason for that was you've got this really gawky teenage girl, straight A student who would not raise her hand to speak up in class because I was mortified, lacked any sort of confidence. But a teacher who saw something in me and knew how much I loved to read and write said, Jen, you should join our mock trial club. It's after school, and we're going to compete against local high schools. Some students will be attorneys, some will be witnesses. We'll have an attorney from the community volunteer their time to train you. And I joined. And because I was a voracious reader, and I'm going to date myself here, Meg, in the early to mid 90s, I was reading all those John Grisham legal thriller novels. So I was
Mhm.
intrigued, right, by this attorney idea. And I got to tell you, it was standing up in court and pretending I was this attorney that just lit this spark in my belly. I
Mm.
found my voice. I said, this is it. This is what I want to do. And it then just set me off on this 20-year journey. College, law school, no break in between. I worked for a judge for a year and then began practicing at the firm that became my home for 11 years. After 8 years, I was promoted to partner. And I thought, I can't believe I have done it. This has been my
Mm.
dream. I was 34 years old, all the blood, sweat, tears, sacrifice paid off. And then you find yourself, and I know this is going to resonate. A couple months later, the dust settles on the promotion, and I settle into the position and think, huh, maybe I don't want to be a partner at a law firm when I grow up after all. So that was my journey, and it was scary. Definitely an
Mm.
emotional roller coaster.
So let me ask you this, because this is, I think, the hardest thing that we all struggle with. And I know I ran from it, Jen. I had that gut whisper in my
Mm,
belly for years. And I think we all hit that in certain points in our journey of there has to be more than this. Has to
yes,
be. But I
yes,
was scared shitless because the job was giving me the validation. I was damn good at it. I had the money coming in. And the other thing I didn't realize was it was giving me this identity, and I didn't know who
yes,
I was without it.
yes.
So, talk our listeners through, how did you find the courage to lean into that whisper and begin this movement that you're bringing out into this beautiful world on wellness and listening to yourself and intuition and authenticity? How did you find the courage to do it, girl?
Well, all of the above, same, ditto, resonates. I was scared. You mentioned being
Mm,
scared. I was scared to stay at the firm and I was scared to go. I equated my identity and, by the way, my friend, my self worth with my
mm,
position at the firm, right? So that was very, very difficult. And I will say there was no, and I know you didn't ask this, but I'll mention there was no like one breaking point or anything like
mm,
that for me. It was more of this slow realization that I didn't like who I was becoming. I was very cynical. And it wasn't until honestly the last few years that I realized that is literally one of the definitions of burnout from the World Health Organization. Like I was very, very cynical. I didn't like myself. And that
mm,
started to give me the impetus to change. I had a baby. I didn't want to be this negative person. And it was a realization that I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like
mm,
I knew people were going to speculate, why am I leaving? Is she making a mistake? But I just had to push all of that away and say, I have to make this change. And I will confess, there was a small part of me that knew if I left the firm and I fell on my face, I can find somewhere else to practice.
Mm.
Okay. So I didn't want to do that, but I knew that I had enough goodwill and enough of a reputation that I can change gears. And I did. I joined a global legal tech publishing company. I love working there. And then when the time came for me to start my own platform, I say that time came because I wanted my own space to spread my stories, to share
Mm.
with people the lessons I learned along the way of, honestly, at the root of it all, finding my authentic self. I
Mm.
stuffed down my identity, my values. I elevated achievement above all else. I know you and I have talked about that in the past. And I said, I need a space to share this, to write and to speak. And if no one listens, that's fine. This is for me. But I've been so blessed that people are listening and reading.
Girl, you took me to church so many times. And for those of you watching us on YouTube, I'm sure you see me
Ah,
praising it to the Lord above. And you know what's so interesting is you talk about this, the resentment, the shame that comes from thinking to yourself, I have all these things I worked hard for. Why aren't I happy?
right.
And then you
Yeah.
can talk to yourself in this whole narrative here. And I want to hear from you, Jen, for the woman that's listening, for our listener that's listening, that is in that spot that we both were, the resentment that comes, the shame that comes with it, this feeling that you should be happy, but you're not. Where do they start to answer that most difficult question that we're never taught how to answer, which is, what do I want? What's one micro step? Where would you tell them to start?
My friend, I said to someone the other day, the hardest question you can ask anyone is, what do you want?
Mm,
Right? How do you answer that question?
yeah.
And for me, to borrow a page from your book, Meg, I think it's the micro step of figuring out your why. And for
Mm,
me, that was more of a, why do I want to make this change? Who am I? Because I had equated my identity, my self worth, as I said, with that position at the firm, with that title. I need to figure out who I was and what was important for me, right? Because important for me and important to me, because that would help me figure out the why I wanted to leave. So for me, that was about core values,
mm,
figuring out what is my moral compass, and then
mm,
coming to understand that living in accordance with your moral compass is the same as living authentically. So, just a quick demonstrative there. My senior seminar in college, there were about 12 of us in this class. And we walked into our big U shaped table one day, and the professor had like these little heaps of paper, like strips of paper, like a fortune cookie at each place. And we pick them up and we see they say things like faith, respect, integrity, humor, family. And she explained that these were core values. And then she led us through this exercise, and we had to whittle down the stack to maybe 4 or 5. And she said, all right, this is going to be your moral compass. It's going to guide you after you graduate on navigating life's decisions. Great. Well, when I wasn't, and by the way, I should say the name of that the name of that seminar was Women in the Workplace, which is so
mm,
fitting. Okay. Because
mm,
there I was over a decade later, repeating that exercise on Google, looking at core value lists, trying to figure out what was important. That for me allowed me to take this small step to get through the cynicism, through the frustration, through the resentment, through the embarrassment, and all of the feels to take the next step, which was the decision, I need to leave.
mm, mm. You know what I love about that? We have tendency to make shit so complicated, don't we? Like we,
Yes. Yeah.
we can talk ourselves just out about it, just anything. And I love, Jen, how you said, I used a dear friend called Google,
Yeah.
and I went on there. I gave myself the space to Google things that worked for me and where I was in this point in my journey, and it helped me find myself. And there's so much power in that. Like, I think we need to go through it alone.
That's a great point, Meg. And I think it's overwhelm,
Yeah.
right? And starting with Google for me was just like, all right, I'm starting here, and this is going to be a really ugly look in the mirror, because when I was on Google doing the searches, I realized, okay, like on one hand, all of my values are the same as when I was 21, kind of doing a version of this exercise. But here I am elevating achievement and success above everything else. I
Mm.
need to get right with my core values, and I need to redefine success. It doesn't just mean a promotion at work. And it's that one small step, but it is going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be a bit of an ugly look, but unless you're willing to do that, I think it's hard to get motivated. And that's why I was where I was for 2.5 years in that position, trying to get the motivation and the guts to move forward. And once I made the decision, things fell into place much
Oh,
more quickly.
I love that. I love how you said about ugliness because
Mm.
it's ugly. Like
Oh, yeah.
oh God. I, so many times, because that's the person that you're never taught to talk to or have a conversation with. You can spend your whole life running from is yourself.
Hmm.
And I remember Viola Davis in her book, which
Love
we
it.
talked about.
Yes, love it. Love it.
We are all so much more alike than we are different. And she said
Yes.
that she would rather go in a boxing ring with Mike Tyson than head on to the
Yes.
conversations that she's had with herself about herself because it's that uncomfortable. And I
Yes.
want to ask you, my friend, how did you have the courage, do you think, to keep going when it got really ugly, when it got really uncomfortable, when you didn't like what you saw, when you were questioning yourself, when it was easy to go back to the things that gave you the validation, which was the job? What do you think it was in your life that gave you the courage to keep going?
I think, the first thing that comes to mind is I began to realize that it wasn't going to be forever,
Mm.
because just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to keep doing it. So there's a
Mm.
permission element there. I felt more in control, and I'm a perfectionist. I'm a type A, I'm a Virgo, all the things, right? So control is important to me. Once I realized that I was actually in control, that it wasn't going to be forever, and that it was okay to walk away from something that you're good at, doesn't mean it's a fit, doesn't mean you have to do it forever. That really kept me going for a while. And then, of course, my family and my close friends who knew that I was in this place gave me a lot of support and a lot of encouragement. I remember the times I vacillated. We talked about the importance of partnership. My husband saying to me, "You can do this. This is not
Mm.
forever. Break it down, get through today, then worry about tomorrow," right? So it was both me having a conversation with myself and gaining some perspective and giving myself permission, and the support and love from those around me.
I want to talk about this crazy word we hear all the time. And you think, what the hell is it? Everybody has it but me. Confidence.
Ooh.
Ugh.
Oh, let me get real
What's
comfortable on my chair, Meg. I've been all over that word, up and down, lacking it, having it, doubting it. So let's do it.
oh, let's talk about it. What does confidence mean to you?
Confidence to me means being secure in yourself and letting go of what other people think so you can live authentically.
Mm. And how
How
do you
about you? I want to ask you what it means.
Oh, it depends on the fluffin' day. But
Yeah, I like that.
I will tell you this. And yeah, and it's never the same in your journey. Like it's okay to change with where you are in your journey. I think we put ourselves in a lane and feel like that's what I gotta be. And then
Yes.
even when it doesn't fit anymore or suit you, you're like, well, that's what I gotta be. For me, my girl, I can say today, confidence to me means giving myself the space to hear myself.
Ooh,
Right.
chills.
Right? I heard Elizabeth Gilbert say this, and God,
Ooh,
it just resonated in
yeah,
me.
she's good.
Oh,
Yeah,
she's good. And it
yeah.
was, the world will take everything from you if you let it.
Mm, mm.
People, even with the best intentions in your life, will want something from you. And nobody is going to give you the permission to create space for you but you. And you got to be comfortable with that. And I thought to myself, yeah. So it's
Yes.
giving myself the space to hear myself and
And
to
you,
act on it.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to
No.
say, and I know you have a big birthday coming up too, right?
Oh my
So I
God, you
think
have
there's
the
something,
best memory.
I think there is something that comes with age too, where
Oh,
you're able to like act like Teflon, let things bounce off you, and just not have your confidence rocked as much. And I've definitely found that. I'm a few years older than you, in my 40s for sure.
I want to talk about that because I don't feel in our world, our consumerism world, that wants you to buy the thing, take the course, do the thing, and you'll feel great. We don't give enough street cred to aging. I think there's something
Mm,
fluff and beautiful about that. The wisdom.
yes.
What, as you've aged, as you turned 40, what did that look like for you? Like, talk to me about what aging means to you.
Let me start by saying that I turned 40 in 2020. So my 40th birthday, we started the year
Oh,
thinking,
God.
oh yeah, we're going to get, my son was, I think, 4 at the time. And we're like, we're just going to get him a passport. Maybe we'll go to Europe and do something
I
to,
remember.
you think we could have my family over and like eat in the backyard with takeout? But more importantly, I think for me, it's all about evolution. I
Mm,
think aging is allowing yourself to evolve, because for so long I couldn't wrap my brain around the fact that there I was, this teenager, right? In that mock trial competition in the county courthouse after hours, thinking, this is it. This is what I want to do. And being so adamant, and then saying, how come I didn't know myself, right? How
oh,
could I be so wrong? I was so secure in that. And then realizing, I was meant to stand before an audience and state my case in a different way than being, right, a lawyer in a courtroom. I'm a speaker now, I'm a writer. I was the same person at my core, but we have to allow ourselves to evolve. It doesn't mean that we were wrong. Growth is so important. And
mm,
that to me has been a true hallmark of aging.
mm.
And by the way, I don't know why I didn't know how old my son was at that time. He was 3, going on 4 in 2020. My math is horrible. Another hallmark of being a lawyer.
And hey, can we go back to the chips? Can you share with our crew what we talked about before we hit the record, which is, it's okay to not be fluff and perfect. Show your
Yes.
chips.
Yes, for sure. I mean, I was telling you that I was sitting down, hooking up my podcast mic, and I realized I have this horrible chip on my dark nail polish. And perfect that I was recording with you, because I remember shortly after we met, you had this great post about how women just need to wear the cracked nail polish sometimes. That chip in your nail is okay. And how perfect, by the way, my friend, because in one of my signature talks, I talk about you have to let people see the chip in your armor that you might have one
Mm.
day. You have to be vulnerable. And I think at times it's hard to practice what you preach and just say, oh, this looks awful. This is a literal chip in the armor, and I'm human. I'm vulnerable. It's okay. So thank you for putting that out in the world.
Oh, ditto, girl, ditto. I love how you brought up vulnerability
Mm,
because we love to hashtag all over that shit. Vulnerability and strength. I use
yeah.
it too. Listen, I get it, but
Mm-hmm.
it is damn hard. And
Hard.
I have found that before you can be vulnerable with anyone else in your life, you got to be vulnerable with you first.
There it
Where
is.
for our listener, how do they even give themselves the space to be vulnerable with
Mm-hmm.
themselves first? How do they begin to bring vulnerability into their life? What's your take on that?
Honestly, I think it's starting small. Allow your
Mm,
guard to fall down a little bit around someone you normally don't. And oftentimes, by the way, this can be the people we're closest with. Maybe
mm,
we don't want to show them that we are actually human. For me, it was little by little putting myself out there. When I was younger, I remember it was learning to raise my hand in class, right? When I started college, and realizing what I had to say wasn't dumb. And if it wasn't the brightest question, it didn't matter. No one else had a perfectly formulated question and knew all of the answers. And I also came to realize, when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you lead by example. And
oh,
you give others permission to do that. So if you're having trouble giving yourself permission, think about what you're doing for somebody else. And if you start small and then you just keep going, I think it also breeds happiness. It breeds authenticity, and it shows that you're a leader.
I love how you said doing it for someone else. I think there
Mm,
is such a power in that, and it stops making it about you, and it gives you the courage to show up. And Jen, I want to ask you, I think the hardest place for us to start, and I hear this a lot from our tribe members, is I maybe want to post the thing, or I feel that I want to share my story, or I want to do the book, or I want to do the speaking thing, but I don't know where to start or to have the confidence to share it. I look around, I think everyone else has it but me. What would you tell the person that feels that they want to share their story, but they don't know where to start? How do they start? How did you start to get your story out?
And I love that you started that question with putting the post up, because
Mm,
honestly, I remember it was January 30th, 2020, and I had drafted this great LinkedIn post all about jmtspeaks.com. I was going to announce myself to the world as an entrepreneur. Their website was finally ready. So I was formalizing speaking that I had been doing for a while. And I just sat there, just like hovering over the mouse button, thinking, what are they going to say when I put this out there? Are they
mm,
going to say, who cares about her? Who cares what she has to say? Delete, who cares? Oh, this is silly. And then I realized, got to get comfortable being uncomfortable if I want to do this. Can't please everyone. There are going to be people who say that. And then realizing, I think we're all a little bit more narcissistic than we like to admit. No one's thinking about us as much as we think that they are. Right?
yes.
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 So just put the post up there, and if it doesn't get any likes, who cares? Don't do it for the likes. Don't do it for anyone but yourself. And honestly, it will come. The comfortability will come. It's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. And that's what I've found. Are there times that I still hesitate to put up content? Of course. I think, oh, is this going to make me look like I'm, a crazy, busy working mom? Like I'm such a cliche. Well, if I am, then I am. I'm going to put it out there.
Uh,
Those are the posts I find, the imperfect ones that resonate the most. Those
mm,
most vulnerable, imperfect posts. That's my thought.
putting the chips out there. I
Yeah.
love how you said, who the hell cares about the number of likes? Can we get some more airtime around that in our digital world? And I still struggle with this. In
Mm-hmm.
our digital world, you can feel, even, be honest with ourselves here, you can feel that your value is tied to those damn algorithms. How many likes did I get? What are my followers? And da 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 da. And as long as it feels right to you, that's the only guiding force you need.
Oh yeah. There's a whole
That.
conversation there for sure. You can't post something just because you think it's going to get likes too.
Yeah.
You have to post it because it's important to you. It's your brand, it's your message, it's your vibe. And I will say this to anyone listening, you know, I have been amazed by how many people I've met at events and, just interacted with over the past few years since launching JMT Speaks, who will say, I love your content on LinkedIn. I like your story. And these are people I know have never liked a message, have never commented on it, have never supported it.
Mm.
And and they'll see the surprise in my space and I'll say, I'll be honest, I didn't know you followed me. And they'll say, oh, I just never like anything. Or because of my position at my company, I feel like I can't like some things and not the other. So I scroll and I read everything, but I don't leave an imprint. And that has happened so many times. So
Mm.
people are watching. I know I'm kind of contradicting what I said, that no one really cares about you, but not really, right? People are watching. Whether they judge you for it, I don't know. People are very self absorbed,
Oh,
and that's
God.
their problem.
Yeah. Yeah. God, I love that. I love that permission slip. My friend, I want to ask you, what would you tell yourself that, God, I'll tell you what, awareness, reflection, what a buffing gift that is. When you look back at that woman who was thinking to herself, I'm hustling to partner, and then realizing, shit, this ain't it. And you were scared shitless to make any moves. What would you tell her if you could go back in time?
So many things. And I think the umbrella under which all the sentiments fall is to give yourself grace.
Mm,
I was impatient to make partner. I was impatient with my daily circumstances. I was frustrated. I felt like my life wasn't my own. I felt like nothing was perfect. I wanted it to be perfect. Everything falls under the fact that I was not kind to myself. I didn't give myself
mm,
grace. I didn't allow myself to be human, right? To say it's okay not to be okay. Don't stuff down the, like you said, those gut whispers. Every time I heard it, every time I felt it, like maybe this isn't it, maybe this isn't for you. No, like you have your path. Keep reaching for that brass ring. Keep your eye on the prize, right?
Mm,
If only I'd given myself grace, if only I've allowed myself to listen to myself, I
mm,
think it would have made a huge difference mentally. I don't know that my circumstances would have changed any sooner, but it would have been so much easier to be in that day to day hustle.
I love that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. My friend, for our listener that has fallen in love with you, like I have, because you are a beautiful gift to this world, authentic, real, vulnerable, coming from a good place to say, I've been there. I see you. Here's what I've done. Here's what I'm learning. What a gift that is. How can they stay connected with you? How can they find out more about your speaking engagements if they want to bring it into some of the rooms that they're in? Tell us where we can follow you and find out more about your work.
Oh, thank you so much for asking. The best place to follow me is my website, www.jmtspeaks.com. I have a stay connected tab there. You can sign up. You will get no more than one email a week from me. And Meg, as you know, this is not your typical newsletter. It is fun. It is
Mm-hmm.
punchy. I, talk about honestly any little happenings in my life and what I've learned that week. I review books, talk about podcasts. That's where you'll find me in my speaking engagements. Check me out on LinkedIn under either my name, Jennifer Marino Thibodaux, Thibodaux, or JMT Speaks. And then I'm also on Instagram. Gonna admit, not perfect on Instagram, not great about always checking it, but at JMT Speaks at Instagram as well.
Beautiful. And gang, I'm going to link that all in the show notes. You can just click right on that. My friend, thank you for the courage to share your story, for the courage to hear yourself, and for the courage to say, I know I'm not alone and I need to help other people navigate through their journey because, my friend, you are beautifully impacting so many more people than you know. And you wrote us all listening today a beautiful permission slip to hear ourselves, to trust ourselves, and know we are not alone. I'm so grateful to know you and love you. Thank you for being here.
Meg Miller, thank you for having me. I am so blessed, all of the above, to have you in my life. Thank you for holding space for not only me,
Mm,
but for everyone who needs to pay attention to intention and your movement. Everything that you do, it matters. And the people who I've had, listen to your podcast on my recommendation, every single person says 10 out of 10. It's like she's speaking directly to my heart. So please keep
mm.
doing what you're doing. It
Here's to
matters.
hype women. May we all
Love it.
be them. May we all tell them how much they matter. Love you.
I love you.